Hey y'all, Bloodwing here, back to bring some grumpiness to the internet. And it's time for Grump of the Week. That's that thing that I do on the weekend where I just talk about whatever I want to. Sometimes it's social justice stuff or feminism stuff, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's a mix, but it's just whatever I feel like. This week, probably everybody's seen The Rant by Dusty Smith, Cult of Dusty, if you know him better by that. And pretty much what I get out of it is he's equating anyone that might even dare to think to vote for Trump, which I'm not, by the way. I'm not for either candidate, honestly. But to dare to think to vote for Trump is alt-right. And seems to think that since the skeptic community is not bashing Christians anymore, but now talking about feminism, SJWs, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 that stuff's not as important. Well, I didn't come from the atheist skeptic community. I come to this bandwagon late. I talk about these things because it means something to me, particularly the Black Lives Matter. Those of you that's been with me for a little while know that I have 4 grandchildren that are half black, and it's affecting my family. So those things mean a lot to me. So that's what I talk about. So I'm not going to make this a whole long, drawn-out beatdown of Dusty, because a few people have already done videos on it, and I doubt I could do it any better than them. And this is probably a subject left to those bigger channels out there, because he'd probably never see mine. But I do this because this is what I want to do. This is what I feel is important. Am I saying that this is the most important thing in the world? No, probably not. That's subjective. That depends on who you are. You know, to a person in the Middle East or in Germany or in other parts of Europe where it's a big problem, Islam is going to be their most important topic in the world. Wherever you live and what situation is going to dictate to you what's most important. For me, right now, it's Black Lives Matter. And I attack social justice warriors and feminism because they support Black Lives Matter. And they support Islam. They're Islam apologists. So I figure I'm doing my part on that, Dusty, by attacking these people. Attack it at its root. Once you get rid of that, maybe you make some progress on Islam itself. And I have every plan in the world of at some point doing content about Islam. I just haven't found the right video or the right article that I feel like that I as a person can do justice to. There's other content creators that are better at that subject than I feel than I would be, but I will do some at some point in the future. But the point is, you do what you want to, Dusty. If you want to go back to bashing Christians or attack Islam or promote Hillary Clinton, which is what you seem to want, you go right ahead. That's what you should do. But don't think that just because the rest of us don't jump on board with you, that we're alt-righters and that we're doing the wrong thing. You know, you're not the only one that I've seen lately state that they're getting bored with the whole feminism SJW thing. Armored Skeptic made a comment similar to that a couple of weeks ago in a video. I seen Chris Ray Gun say that, you know, he just wasn't feeling it anymore. I get that. You know, then do something else. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. But Dusty, don't accuse us of being all right. I mean, I'm not left-leaning by any means. At best, I am right of center. But I'm certainly not alt-right. I'm certainly not a full-fledged conservative. I prefer not to drink the Kool-Aid of either side, of either extreme. and make my own mind up about things. I'm not a libertarian either. I'm probably decidedly right of center. But I have some, quote, leftist, unquote, ideas, probably, as well as some very conservative ideas. That's just who I am. And there's a lot of us out there. And since when is being on the right that bad a word? Why can't we all work together, Dusty? Why can't we all work together, no matter what our background is and who we support for presidential candidate? And that's, I think this is the thing that really aggravates me the most, is during presidential elections. And it's not just this one. I've been around for a lot of them. The first one I was able to vote in is the first term of office for Reagan. So that gives you an idea how long ago it's been since I've been able to vote. It's always been this way. One side hates the other. If you're not their side, you're the worst thing in the world. For the left, if you're not part of the left, you're evil. For the right, if you're not part of the right, then you're evil. It's just ridiculous, and I hate it, and I'll be so glad when November is over so we can get back to some semblance of normalcy. Dusty, I think you're jumping the shark here with this stuff, because you've drawn some lines in the sand. You've called out some people such as Sargon, Chris Ray Gun, Armored Skeptic, even your buddy TJ, and labeled them as alt-right. And no, I happen to follow some of those. I subscribe to Sargon. I subscribe to Armored Skeptic. I watch some Chris Ray Gun videos from time to time, and those guys are anything but alt-right. Just because some of our ideas overlap with some ideas that alt-right have doesn't make us alt-right. I bet you some of the ideas that I have overlap with some of yours, Dusty, but I bet you some of them don't, and that's okay. We should be able to work on our common ground instead of drawing lines in the sand. Anyway, enough about that. Another thing that's been in the public consciousness a lot lately on YouTube is the professor up in Toronto, Jordan Peterson, that seems to almost be single-handedly facing down the SJWs up there that have government backing, apparently, or support at any rate, in trying to make it illegal not to use a person's pronouns. Those made-up pronouns of ze, they. There's a million of them. And he absolutely refuses, and I guess that he's actually risking being on the wrong side of the law if he refuses to use it, and he still refuses. Ultimately, he said I've seen a clip where he said that he would hunger strike if he got arrested for it. And, I'm with him. The man's my new hero, I think. I'd like to have a picture of him, frame it, stick it up on my wall. I think he's a hero because he's voicing what a lot of us feel and a lot of us talk about. Regardless of how you feel about the whole non-binary gender thing, which is what this is all about. They can talk, they want to label it that as trans people all they want, but trans people are people that are actually transitioning from one sex to the other, either from male to female or female to male. These people can't make up their mind what they are. They confuse the fact that they might be a girl and feel a little more masculine than most girls sometimes as, well, I must be somewhere in between or whatever. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, you absolutely never heard about this before until this millennium, this century. You never ever heard about anything like this. And there's even so many people in the gay and trans community that want them to shut up because they're blowing it for them. They're making it all look stupid. And most of them, like Blair White, most of you probably know who Blair White is. She told him, stop it. Knock it off. There's only two genders, male or female. And if you're trans, you're transitioning into one of those genders. But this professor, Jordan Peterson, to get back on topic, has made it very clear that he's not going to use those genders. He don't want to be forced to, and I'm with him. I'm absolutely with him. I'll go on record. Jordan, you get fired up there in Toronto, come down here in America, maybe you can find a campus. I can't guarantee you any better than what you got up there as far as social justice, but I bet you could find a job down here in the United States. It is just ridiculous. I've never seen another group that claims oppression. That's what they're claiming. They're claiming some kind of oppression, that they can't get housing, and I never see any real evidence of that in any of the videos or interviews or TV shows about it that I've watched in the last few days. No one ever gives any real hard evidence that they can't do these things. They're just making the claims. Anybody can make any kind of claim and throw it out there, but without evidence, without citations, without facts, that's all they are. They're just claims. Excuse me. And they're claiming they're oppressed, but I've never seen another oppressed group claim that they have to legally now have the right to their own pronouns. And by that I mean it's illegal. You could be arrested for not using it. As much as I'm against Black Lives Matter, they don't want their own pronouns. As much as I'm against feminism, most of those, unless they're also a Tumblrina, they don't want their own pronouns. It's just this Tumblrina group, this non-binary, non-science baloney. Heard somebody on a video say earlier, and right off the bat, I'm kind of tired here, but I can't remember who it was, but somebody on a video earlier said, if I had a nickel for every gender there was, I'd have a dime. And that's so true. So true. Oh, I think it was on a guest video on Suit Yourself's channel today. Can't remember the name of the person right offhand, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But yeah, Professor Peterson, you're my new hero. Keep up the good work. All of us over here on this end of YouTube are behind you. That's enough for the SJW feminist bull hockey. Last couple of weeks, my son's been coming over, and we've been playing a game, all of us, my oldest daughter, my wife, and I. I like to play games, but I like to play games that are out of the ordinary. Yeah, I like Monopoly, but I like games that are more out of the ordinary. And he has a game, some of you may have already heard of it. It's not a brand new game. It's been out for a couple of years. I first saw it on the channel that Will Wheaton has, where he plays different board games. And we both saw that, thought, wow, that'd be really fun. And he finally bought it, even though it's a little bit on the expensive side. But it's called Mice and Mystics. And man, is it fun. It is just really fun. You play these little mice who were once human beings, but because of a spell, they're now mice, and they have to make their way through the castle and find different objects. And it's every bit an RPG. The board's always changing. The board comes in pieces, and you flip it upside down, or depending on what chapter, it's in chapters and so forth. And we've had a lot of fun, even though that the first week we couldn't get past the second room, period. We kept party wiping. Well, no, it was the third room was the farthest we got, but we got party wiped so many times I can't even count, which means you have to start over at the beginning of that chapter. And that was on the first chapter. And then I made the decision to not use Maginos, who is the wizard, and because that's kind of where I always tend to gravitate, is toward the magic user, whether it's in a video game or whatever. But it's so much harder for Maginos to hit with his attacks than it is those that use melee. So put Maginos away, brought out the Tinkerer tank that carries a big hammer, and that made all the difference in the world. We played last Monday for hours. I mean, till I just couldn't hardly hold my head up anymore. And we're nowhere near through the campaign. I mean, this thing goes on forever. If you play an entire campaign, I'm sure it's going to take us more than a few days and to get through an entire campaign. But we only party wiped once, so we've it was a good move to change characters. We're now at a point where he and I actually have to double up on characters because there has to be 6 characters being played at this point. So he and I decided to double up, and we both lead a separate team through the castle. And he being my son, and who's, you know, I'm an old fogey and my kids are getting old. He's 32. But we've just been having a whole lot of fun. He also had another game. It was a zombie game, and off the top of my head, I cannot remember the name of the game. I didn't enjoy it as much. It wasn't that it's a bad game, and I want to give it another try. It's just that we tried it. We were spoiled to how fun the Mice and Mystics. This zombie game is really, really complicated. Really complicated, really deep. It's one of them where you can read through the instructions, which are, you know, the size of an encyclopedia, and by the end of it you're really not sure what you heard because there was just so much information. So you just kind of have to play it, go by ear as you go along. And we did play a round of it. We kind of got a little bit of a hang of it, even though we lost. We didn't make it through. But the interesting thing of this game, and it might be fun to play with even more than 4 players, and we're going to have to get a bigger table than we're just using a standard card table, and this thing takes more room than that. The interesting thing is that you can actually play as a saboteur or a spy, you know, if you decide to, and you know, and see if you can get away with that. Of course, if the other people catch on, then, you know, they can take steps to put you out of the game. Certainly to expel you from the survivor camp out among the zombies. But yeah, I like games like that. You know, if you've got suggestions, if you too like games like that, give it to me. I certainly recommend looking up Mice and Mystics. I was going to insert a picture here, but I'm being pushed. My wife wants to go to bed. She says, if you're going to record, you better record now or you're not going to be able to. So I didn't get a chance to look up the picture. I know there are, but you can look it up on Google and see pictures of what Mice and Mystics is about. See what I'm talking about. But if you have other suggestions of games like that, please do let me know. We're open to try them if we can afford them. Some of those games are pretty expensive, and we're pretty poor over here at the old BW house. We live pretty much hand to mouth. Not a lot of extra cash flowing around most of the time, but you know, yeah. Leave me any suggestions, and if we can, we're certainly open to trying them. We like games like that. Before I shut this down, this episode of Grump of the Week down for the week, I want to give another shout out to my second channel. It is up and running with the first episode. It's Papa's Bedtime Stories. Go check it out, please. Let me know what you think. Even if it's brutal, you know, let me know if it sucks. Let me know if it's great, you know, or whatever. Just let me know something. My goal is to release an episode once a week until I can get in a rhythm of running both channels and keeping up with this one and keeping up with that one. Then I'm going to up it to at least 2 episodes a week. Now, one of those might be an ongoing serial story. If you don't, I'm sure you understand what I mean by serial. I mean, it's ongoing, like reading a comic book. Each episode, each one doesn't end on a definite end. It's continued on to the next one. That I have in mind, that I've mentioned before. It was an idea for a comic book that I had that I'm trying to translate in my mind into a kind of novella setting. I've been doing some research on it, and I'm just about ready to start writing the first episode of that. So one episode of the week might be that, and the other episode will be various scary stories, creepypastas. Please do go there. Please do send me your stories. I do write some of my own stories, but I'm not as prolific as Stephen King, so I need some help. I need some content. Send that to me. And I think that's going to be it for this episode of Grump of the Week. I noticed that Based Mama's having another live stream as I speak. I won't be able to get in it, probably because my wife's going to bed. But I do want to go and watch. I do like her live streams. I was on another one of hers last night with your boy Pat and several others. And it was another marathon stream. We have so much fun that we don't know when to quit. And I think counting the after party, we were at it for more than 6 hours. At least me, Mama, and Pat were. We just enjoy each other's company so much. I just have a good time with that group. But I'm going to end that now and probably go take a peek at her live stream. And so, as always, get out of my yard.